Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Story Behind the Stories. I'm your host, Casper Wehrhahn, reporter and photographer for the Neepawa Banner Press, as well as archivist. And we have a bit of a unique Story Behind the Stories episode for you this time around. First of all, I'm here by myself this time. We have some circumstances, people on holidays, etc. So the usual suspects that would normally accompany aren't available, but I'll sure do my best. As well, we have a shorter paper this week. We're sort of the first paper in for January. That's always one that's a little bit shorter. And we have a little bit of a shorter episode today as well. But we do have another program coming on after that I'm sure you'll enjoy. But getting onto the paper, we are starting right on the front page, as usual. We have some new arrivals in the area, starting with solar energy. So we have this new installation at the barn. Very wonderful job done there. And a story done by Rob Waddell. Thank you, Rob, for getting that for us. So this new installation was put in recently by Sean Nugent, who is the owner of Comfort Electric. And it's adding to the community their history of valuing the sunshine. So that is a wonderful thing to have on there, and they are aiming for net zero energy costs in the future. Another new arrival that we have on page 2 is our New Year's baby. The Lissaway family from Mendoza has the honor of having this year's New Year's baby. So say hello to Eliana Lissaway. She was born at 9 pounds, 8 ounces, and is 21 inches. So congratulations to Father Matt and wife Samantha on that arrival. Another new arrival that we have here, I guess has been in the works for a while now and has been in the community for quite a while. The renovated RCMP building that is now going to be taken over by the Assiniboine Community College for the nursing program. All the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and they are moving in right now as we speak, and are planning to start using the building by, I believe it was January 7th. They got everything sorted out there and have an agreement for $5,000 per month rent. So that is a great contribution to the community as well. That is going to be starting up very soon. In addition to the Carberry community, one that's been long awaited, and I'm very excited to see added in there, is the new Lions Care Assisted Living Center. They recently held their grand opening just before the new year. So that was held in December. And it's a wonderful 16-room facility that is wonderfully laid out there with common areas and all sorts of amenities to make the space cozy, welcoming, inviting, and provide seniors with the care that they need and assistance where needed as well. So that's a nice thing to have there too. And we had that covered by our local journalism initiative reporter, Jolene. She did a wonderful story on that, so be sure to check that out in full. Now, moving on from the new arrivals in our area, we have a bit of concern as well. And this is something that's been going on for a while, but it's to do with our recycling. And again, as I've said, this is something that we've sort of mentioned in the past. But Neepawa is a growing community. It's grown so much. So in relation to that, we should see rising, return from our recycling program with that growth of our community. Unfortunately, those numbers haven't actually grown. They reached a bit of a flat line. So that's concerning for the town of Neepawa, and it's concerns the council. And the reason, or at least one of the larger reasons for that, that we have seen is actually more contaminated recycling. So there's things going into the recycling that shouldn't be going in there, or perhaps haven't been cleaned properly, that have then been added in there that could be recycled if they were a little more touched up, cleaned up, as it were. So that in itself is of concern, but the other concern as well with this is that the town now, actually with how this works, gets penalized for that contaminated recycling. So they're urging people to be extra careful, extra diligent with the items that they're putting in there, and making sure that you're only putting in what you should be putting in. And if you're not sure, play it on the safe side. Toss it out instead. Yes, it'll go to waste in the garbage, but it's better than putting it in the recycling and then having that penalization, or you know, of course, on the additional side of it as well, having that load of recycling be no good, because it does ruin an entire batch, and that's not something that you want. You want to keep the recycling program going, and having those batches crystal clear so that you can get the most benefit out of it as possible. So be sure to check out those details on page 6. It lays out some of the items that they have been noticing going in there more often, such as straws, coffee pods, etc. So take a look at that. There's just certain things that maybe you think, yeah, this is good, but in actuality you can't put in there. And always be sure to check your info sheets as well. I know the town has had some put out, and I think they put some reminders on their Facebook page as well, so definitely check that out. A special program that's also going on NEC TV, that is not the one that I mentioned before, it's a brand new one, is Cooking with the Stars. This is debuting on this channel very soon, and it is to promote the Meal in 30 program. This was all filmed previously, before the holidays, I believe. And in a sense, you can sort of think of it as like Dancing with the Stars, but like cooking instead. So you have these local chefs, our celebrity chefs, as it were, and they prepare different meals for a panel of judges that are also selected and are local. And they have a little bit of a competition going, but it also highlights these meals that you can make in your own home with ingredients that you can find at the local stores. Well, they're good for you. They're good for you, they're tasty, and they're good for your health. So you get a little bit of a showcase that way. You get to see how the chefs do in each of the competitions. Aside from the recipe put out by the Meal in 30 program, they also get to bring a little bit of a special ingredient in order to elevate the dish a little bit, surprise the judges, and hopefully take home that win. So I did go through it a little bit faster than I normally would with a guest. I just tend to talk a little bit faster when I'm a host. No way around it, but I'm working on it. Trying to, anyway. But there's a lot more in the paper, although it is a smaller one, that you can take a look at. Of course, we've got our weekly looking back. We have a highlight from 1974 this week on one of the area pioneers, which is Jim Thompson. So be sure to take a look at that. These entries are always longer than I can fit in because it's a special feature that's took place in the Neepawa Press that sort of details each pioneer's full history. So there's a lot that I couldn't put in there, but there's some good stuff in there. Of course, the entries from other years as well. And we have Ken's column, as always, and Rita's. Neil's column, too. Ken's this week is Clear Thinking in Short Supply, so be sure to give that a look. He had some points out there that, yeah, why aren't we doing this? for a few things, some that maybe you don't agree with. One that I'm certainly curious about as well, and I'm sure our viewers are too, is he goes a little bit into the electric vehicles mandate that has been put out. If you're not familiar, it is that we will no longer be able to buy gas or diesel-powered cars in Canada after 2035, which right now that seems kind of far away. I mean, we're in 2024, so there's a good over 10 years for that to happen still. But the concern has always been here, especially in Canada and Manitoba, is that how are they going to stack up to Canadian conditions, the winter conditions? And then, of course, the distances having to be traveled as well. Because, they work really well in smaller distances, places that have a lot more reliability for weather to help stop draining the batteries, much like a winter does here. And, the shorter travel distance as well, as I said, and more charging stations because of those shorter distances. So the question that he posed was, how are these EV cars and trucks going to perform once we're at that stage? Are they going to have a capable battery to withstand the distances that they would need to? Are they going to have a battery capable of withstanding the winter conditions that we have here? And dependent on that, what sort of plan is in place, if it's a highway patrol, etc., to retrieve cars that have broken down because of a dead battery on the side of highways, depending on where you are traveling to. So that and more in that column. And Rita's column, just looking at a bit of a retrospective and a forward glance, backwards onto the year past, and of course forwards onto the year coming, which she stems off of from a bit of an incident that she had on one of her trips. So that was a very interesting read from her. And then of course we have some past events from before the new year. We have some choir performances at the Neepawa United Anglican Church. They had a lovely showing there before the holidays. Wonderful vocals as always, so be sure to look at that picture. And then of course in sportsing, because although we don't have a dedicated sports page, we do have sportsing in here. We had a wonderful photo from the Volleyball Manitoba Fall program. It sounded like it was a great success, everybody giving their all in the program and having a lot of fun too. So we are very thankful to have that come in. And then of course the Co-op Kids Club was ringing in the new year with the help of the Neepawa Titans. There was a couple players there, as well as coaches, to serve hot chocolate to all the kids and families in attendance that enjoyed a variety of activities there up at the Neepawa Gladstone Co-op. We have some results from bowling, and this was something that wasn't sports, because again, not dedicated sports page, but still had sports, that Ken wanted to get in here. And it's a bit of a unique opinion piece from a very well-known, at least in our office, writer and, well, news media person, Kevin Slimp. If you're not familiar, he's most known for the creation of what we call the PDF, very widely used format for sending out documents, printing documents, and is the standard for newsprint. We use this constantly in our work. And he just goes a bit into, looking at headlines from the past and thinking, yeah, 2024, this can be a good year. This is something that we've talked about in the past as well. just dealing with newsprint and how it's gone, like where it's come from and where it's going to go. And there's been a lot of talk over the years of, the papers are dying. They're disappearing. Newsprint, and this is something that we hear out of office, of course, but people saying that newsprint isn't going to last. So he goes into that quite a bit there. And while we have seen the disappearance of papers, we've covered this, of course, papers in communities like Carberry, sorely missed paper. And then actually here as well in the past, it became a corporate-owned paper, if I recall correctly, Glacier. And, other papers around Manitoba and Canada that are also corporate-owned have disappeared. But it seems to be those local papers, those locally owned papers that really stick around. So there's a lot of hope there and potential. And, newsprint has always been something that, you can reliably find it. There's accuracy, there's accountability, people owning up to mistakes if they have made them, and that all gets in there and it doesn't get changed. That comes a little bit further from what Kevin was talking about, but be sure to check that out. It's a great piece. We are starting to run short on time, so I will wrap things up here, but there's a lot more in there, so be sure to pick out a hard copy of the paper if you're able. Or, of course, our full version is available online too if you're outside of our coverage area. We have people from other provinces that sometimes pick up our paper through our website, but that is mywestman.ca, so be sure to look at it on there if you're not able to pick up a hard copy. But thank you for bearing with me as I go through this episode here and joining me for a bit of the story behind the stories. I'm your host, Casper Wehrhahn, and if you have any news tips for us, please reach out to us at 204-476-3401 or news@neepawabanner.com. We'd be very appreciative of receiving any news tips you have, any stories you'd like to submit, photos. We love photos. Integral part of the paper, having those visual aspects. And of course, if you have any opinions, if you want to send a letter to the editor, a thumbs up, we're very appreciative of having those as well. Thank you once again for joining me, and have a great week.